Welcome to Season 4 of the Powered by Rock podcast. We'll bring you the best stories in rock music with a focus on highlighting independent rock musicians and their music from all over the world. No, rock music isn't dead. It's getting better and better. It's just time for you to start paying attention again. With that said, let's get this party started.
The mountain's gonna rise and fall by me.
Hello and welcome to the Powered by Rock podcast. We're only speaking with Johnny Marriot from the UK pop rock punk band, as I like to call it, Pet Needs today. Pet Needs had one hell of a year last year as they did not only put out their second album entitled Primetime Entertainment, which was fantastic, but they also toured extensively throughout the year with a major opening slot on Frank Turner's 50 States in 50 Days tour. They weren't on every single show because Frank sometimes did random radio shows and stuff like that, but that's just like one of the most mind-blowing things if I ever got to play on Frank Turner's tour, I would just absolutely shit my pants. But there is a reason why they were there, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, you know, from start to finish, I actually got to see that show at the House of Blues in Las Vegas, and it was one of the most entertaining shows I've ever seen. So, you know, and these guys did not disappoint as an opening slot. So the band has played shows pretty much nonstop since I think it was about 2017, except for the lockdown pretty much. And they released their first album, Fractured Party Music, in 2020, while everything else was on pause. And then both albums, if you haven't heard them, they're absolute magic. So make sure you go check them out. And the last thing to know about this band is they put on a hell of a live show that I would say rivals any big band or any high production band. And they don't even have all the cool like pyros and all that shit going off. So I think even if they're playing a small pub or 2,000, 5,000 person like arena or theater, you're going to absolutely, you guys are going to kill it. And anybody who's watching is going to love it. So, hey, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Oh, mate, thank you. Thank you so much for such a nice introduction as well, man. That means a lot. And yeah, House of Blues in Las Vegas was such a fun show. It was amazing. Yeah. I mean, I know that especially like Brits and Australians, when they come to Vegas, all they're thinking of was like party, party, party. But it's not always like that. And you can make it like that for sure. But it's like, for touring bands, a lot of times they're like, oh shit, do we really want to go out, party all night, get up at 5 a.m., drive to the next place or whatever they got to do. I think it was like your guys' second to last tour or last stop on the tour. So you might have probably partied a little bit while you're here, but some bands are like, we can't even stay. We got to go right now. And I'm like, man, that sucks. Like especially if it's like the only or first time you've ever been in Vegas, you miss out on that. That's tragic. Yeah, that's it. And it was so strange because we kind of drove in and it was gig for us. It was gig 35 out of 36. Like you said, Frank Turner was doing 50 states in 50 days and we did 36 of them. And we'd been driving ourselves. We've been tour managing ourselves. We'd been not just sharing hotel rooms, but sharing beds with the rest of the boys, like sharing double beds. And we drove into Vegas. And that was one of the places where it was like, we do need to go and see what it's like in this town. And also we were, House of Blues is right in the middle of the Mandalay Bay Hotel as well. So we got to go out in the casino for a little bit afterwards. We got to go down the strip a little bit. And luckily we only had one more show left that wasn't too far away in the kind of grand scheme of things, which is good. Yeah. It was down in LA. The furthest drive we did was dropping the van back because we picked the van up from Philadelphia. And then we finished in LA and we had to drive 44 hours back to get the van back, which is pretty hardcore, especially after such a long tour.
Yeah, that's when you're supposed to hire a college kid to do it for like $100 or something.
Yeah, that's it. Next time, I'm sure we will. That's it. We're learning. It's our first time in America, and it was like we're going back out there in a couple of months, but we're going out and doing like 10 dates, 12 dates, or something like that. Yeah. Which is kind of a normal kind of like first run. But go out and see so many states and see so much of America, and then have the penultimate show being in Vegas, which is somewhere where you've seen on all the movies and all those kind of things, but somewhere I never thought I'd have the opportunity to visit. It was awesome. It was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. I've lived here for like almost 17 years now, I think. And when I first came here, you know, it's that experience, like go party your ass off. You don't want to stay too many days in a row. Cause like, you know, sometimes you're like, 3-4 days. Perfect. 7 days, you've stayed too long. Like if you're partying for 7 straight days, you're probably not going to make it out of there with any sort of like top condition and health or anything. But but living here now, it's totally different. It's like, you go party when you want, but it's like, you don't go to the strip. You don't go down to necessarily downtown all the time. You kind of just hang out at local bars like any other city in America.
That's cool. And it seems like from, because we were just talking before this about the Powered by Rock Awards, and I was looking at some of the other bands that on the awards, and I saw that you went out to see them like play locally the other day and stuff, which is cool. So is there like a good underground rock scene in Vegas?
Yeah. So this is something that obviously with this show, I'm kind of like, it's not a locally based Vegas only kind of podcast. It's like all over the world. Wherever there's good rock music, I want to hear it kind of thing. And I want to highlight it. But at the same time, there's actually really good bands here that because it's in Vegas, it's drowned out by the strip. It's drowned out by the glitz and the glam of the lights and stuff. You don't hear that anybody's from Las Vegas unless it's like Imagine Dragons, Killers, which I think Imagine Dragons were actually from like Utah anyway. And then they moved here and then they kind of blew up. But yeah, you don't see it too often. There's like 3 or 4 bands that ever came out of Las Vegas, but there is like, hundreds of bands here that play every single week. And, there's unfortunately, there's not a lot of great venues. And that's kind of one of my dream goals is to make a really cool rock venue here. But that's the kind of thing is like, they'll play a house show and then they'll go play at a restaurant and then they'll go play at like a bar and then they'll go play at whatever. And it's just kind of like this cool mix of like bands from all genres, grunge, punk, hardcore. Now hardcore is actually probably the biggest scene in Las Vegas because a lot of the mid-20s are all into hardcore right now and they like punching each other. So I guess it's kind of like flipping the Gen Z idea of like them all being peace loving and super progressive on the head and like, let's go out and punch each other. And I'm like, that's what it was like in the 80s and 90s, when I was kind of getting into punk.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, I'd love to go to a Vegas hardcore show. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So obviously we'll talk more about you than me, because you're the reason why you're on the show today. And I got to say, like, having gone through obviously the music you guys have put out, seen you live, there are some things within your music that I find to be a pretty compelling story for people who don't know anything about you. And we were talking briefly right before we came on air, how the first album, it's called Fractured Party Music. It is kind of like that music that's up tempo, gets people going, has a little bit of, kind of subtle context of not necessarily, hey, everything's all right kind of thing. But you kind of went harder on that with Primetime Entertainment, talking in songs like Ibiza in winter, or Ibiza as they say there in winter. Spirals is another one where you're talking about like these instances in time where things weren't all great, but you still power it through like a really poppy punk rock kind of sound. So even if people aren't paying attention to lyrics, they're going to have a great time. They're going to be able to, sing along to the songs, but there is something more heartfelt in there. So kind of talking about, this concept, you kind of bring out, you bring out like something different. You bring out, happiness, hope, lasting joy, which is, it's kind of something very similar to Frank Turner. Like he talks about those real human issues and then just puts it through an anthemic pop rock song or, even like a folk rock song. But tell me how you guys kind of figured out this, I guess, this device or this sound and how you decided to dig into that. Obviously COVID might have played a part in that as well, but talk to me about your kind of process through that.
I think that's it. I think I've never really had a kind of set plan about what I want to write about. I just kind of like write about what I feel about at that time. And Fractured Party Music was kind of an amalgamation of the previous 3 or 4 years, where with kind of like 3 or 4 years of writing, and then kind of almost like a scrapbook, kind of chose the ones that I wanted to put out there or that we wanted to put out there. And then did. So it was almost weirdly like a bit of a greatest hits of the first 4 years. So it didn't for us feel like...
because you guys were going for a while before you actually decided to put that album out, right? So
yeah, sure. And that album was almost going to be a bit of a swan song for us, really, because we've kind of been doing a bit like you were saying about Vegas bands. We've been doing like the local circuit and things and playing in loads of different cool places and the odd kind of festival. But we were kind of stagnating a little bit. And also I was putting on events at a university. And it kind of had a very similar kind of feeling where you're really kind of working towards making something cool and creative happen, and then the thing happened and it's really, really exciting. So I was starting to throw myself into that. And so me and my brother George, who play lead guitar, we're like, right, let's give it one more year and we'll see what happens. And then what happened is that COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, we decided, like in the little gap between, in the UK, you could like meet up in groups of 6 people. And there was 4 of us in the band, and there was one person that could be our producer. And we decided, let's go to the studio, let's put an album down, kind of, if not now, when. And that was the first album. And then the second album was kind of written almost straight away after that, but it was written during the middle of the pandemic, where usually my life was really, really big and really, really social, and it got super, super small. But it was also during all this, we got offered a record deal for the first album that we'd recorded. And so I was kind of a weird transitional time where I felt that my kind of, I was never like super well off, but I never had to worry about the rent or anything like that because I had a like regular wage. And I was kind of transitioning from knowing that I was going to leave a job, which I was predominantly just working from home now, to then just dive in to do something that I had no idea what it was going to be like. I was kind of like, it's something that I'd worked towards for like over a decade, but something that I was terrified about as well. And being in lockdown with all of this kind of in that melting pot came an album that I think is really kind of introspective and self-reflective, because I had that time for the first time in a long time to be introspective and self-reflective. And it's kind of talking about the person that I was when I was writing the songs for Fractured Party Music, and kind of the person I am still now as well, who kind of does indulge a little bit too much in kind of partying and things like that. I mean, I'm sitting here with a bit of a crushing hangover today as well after quite a big weekend.
Yeah.
But also someone that wants to try and get better and try and be mindful of my own mental health, and trying to just like make it in the world, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of those things when, you know, when you and I will say, I don't know what your guys' shows and, you know, energy was like on stage beforehand. I assume it's very similar. Obviously you have to craft into that. Like you can't just, and you guys literally started a band out of nothing, right? It was just you and your brother, like just had guitars and we're like, we're going to start making music. And then we're going to get 2 guys, Rich and what's the other guy's name? Jack, that's right.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
I'm like, I was gonna say Frank. I'm like, that's definitely not it, but it's a short name. I remember that. Yeah, yeah. And then you brought them on, obviously, and then had a band. But I don't know what it was like before. But like now, you guys, even when you're playing, you know, that weird opening slot when it's like sometimes there's people there, sometimes there's not, and
sure.
You also have all the instruments behind you, and the stages, depending on where you play, like smaller than the rest of the bands play on. You guys really bring an energy that, you know, I think translates 2 things. One, the UK being cooped up for way too long, obviously during lockdown, and like it's like, hey, we're finally free again. But it's also like it's just like a joy that you're playing the music and being able to do this. That's some bands like I still don't understand why bands aren't happy when they're playing shows. Like you almost never see anybody smile or laughing or joking, and the ones that do like kind of rehearse that too, which is kind of weird. It's like, we're laughing about a joke that we've told everybody like the last 50 times we've played a show, but it's like, okay, well, we know that you said that to the last 10 shows or whatever, but you guys generally seem like everything you're doing is like, you know, super excited. You're happy to be there, which shows me that you're not only humble, but also having a lot of fun, which I don't always see. And does that kind of play off the fact that you're back to being that social kind of person again versus being in that lockdown, or how did that translate? Like, how did you guys go from what you were before, then to COVID, then to what you are now?
Yeah, sure. So like, I think we've always thrown everything into all of our shows ever. I think that started from just trying to get people to pay attention when they were in a crowded bar or in a not so crowded bar.
Yeah, when they're watching TV at the pub or something.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's like, how do we draw these people in? And then we went from playing kind of small rooms to like about 50 people to then being taken on this big world tour with Frank Turner. And Europe, we did all of Europe with him first, and suddenly we were in front of, instead of like 200 people or 20 people, we're in front of like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, how are we going to do this? And we were like, shall we just do the same show that we've always done, which is kind of like, we're really inspired by kind of punk bands and like hardcore bands in the what they put into their show, but then also it's the greatest joy in the world. And then it was so overwhelming. Like the whole of last year was so ridiculously overwhelming. Every single, it's almost like it became so normal, but then the moment that you hit the stage, you're like, oh my God, this is happening again. And every single time we still get that, like especially playing like Vegas, you have to like, you're standing backstage about to go on stage at House of Blues, like in the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, and it feels kind of almost dreamlike, not in a, oh, this is like a dream come true. It's like I really can't conceptualize what life is at the moment, but it's really, really exciting.
It's like you're living somebody else's life suddenly or something.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And we kind of miss we spent a long time on that kind of like bottom rung playing to 50 people and then suddenly jumped up onto something else. So it's not, we weren't eased into it at all. So I think we had kind of two options, either shy away from it or just go, this could all end tomorrow. Let's just put absolutely everything into every show. And yeah, it's so much fun. I have to admit, sometimes we will tell a joke that works well the day before. We might tell it another day. But it's kind of like nothing's overly super planned or anything like that. Yeah. It's just like, it is the most fun in the world. And it needs to be the most fun because so much about being, because like we do this full time now as well, and so much about being a musician full time in this kind of climate is really anxiety inducing as well. And as soon as the show stopped being fun, it wouldn't be worth doing at all. But for me, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, and you know, I think when I see you guys live, it's and I tell this to bands that are playing small shows right now, and pretty much anybody who I talk to on podcasts, like if you're not going to play the way you would play in front of 50,000 people, in front of 20 people or 5 people, then when you get to that 50,000 people, you're not gonna succeed. You people will find you out, right? Like it's like sure. You can't suddenly become somebody else when your fan base grows. You have to be that person all the way through. And that's why when people are like, well, why am I not getting better gigs or making more money? I'm like, because you're not earning it right now. You're not earning it. You're just going in there, you're playing the music, and then you're getting off stage and just hanging out. If you actually go out and put everything into a show every single time, doesn't matter how many people are there, the people that are there will recognize that. And then they'll start telling their friends, man, you got to check that band out. And then more people will come to the next show, and then the next show, and the next show. So I think it's one of those things that regardless of how many people you're playing for, you could be a year, 2 years, 3 years away from actually breaking out and finding a new fan base that has been waiting for you a long time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think so much about like giving everything when you're there is not just on stage, but it's about making friends as well. And it's about kind of getting on and being helpful to the other bands, making friends with the other bands. And this is talking like whether this is like playing somewhere like House of Blues or playing in front of 5 people, and supporting each other and really building a scene. And then making sure that you're connecting off the stage with people that have come to the show as well. Like you said, like we hung out at the merch desk at the House of Blues. Yeah. And it's like that. It's about really genuinely like it's. I mean, for us, this is like we're at a different level to what we were now, but it's such an honor to like kind of meet people and learn about their lives as much as it is about going on stage and shouting about ours. But we have that all the time, like that kind of approach all the time. And there will be times, I'm sure, in the future, and there's been many times in the past where we've gone and played a show and it is to like 5 people or 20 people or something like that. And that's cool because then you just kind of pitch things like in a different way, but then just play it with exactly the same kind of passion that you'd always do. And if you love playing, then like you've already won that crowd over. I think if you're playing in front of a small crowd, the worst thing you can do is make them feel self-conscious for being a small crowd or make them feel that you're disappointed. Like some of my favorite shows I've ever played ever, like me and my brother do like acoustic shows as well, like the two of us, and some of the best shows we've ever played are in like house parties in front of about 20 people, and it's so much fun. So you can create energy in any room if you want, or almost any room, I should say. We've had somewhere where it's died, but if you've thrown everything behind it and then it doesn't work, then that's fine, because you've thrown everything at it. If you go on half-assed and then it doesn't work, then, well, that could be your fault. You didn't throw everything at it.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I do want to talk about, and then I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. There's no proper segue for this, I don't think, but
sure.
You've written about this topic in your last album. You actually had a cat. You had a pretty deep bond with this cat, and you wrote about the cat in Fear the Whole Damn World, which is an excellent song. And I just kind of want to know, like, you know, for people who don't own pets, they probably don't get what the song's about and why it's like, you know, you're basically saying like, I don't trust humanity because of this event happening, kind of thing. And you feel for the whole damn world. But kind of talk to me about, you mentioned something in the song saying how she taught you how to love like you'd never loved before. Kind of explain
100%.
what that line means and kind of talk about this and how it affected your life and your songwriting.
Yeah, 100%. So like I'd like had cats before, but they were like my partner's cats that were hers when they were children, and like when she was a child. And we'd had cats pass away before that had got old, like about 15 years old, and they passed away, or I'd had to take them to like get put down and stuff, and it's really sad. But then we got this little cat in lockdown, a little cat called Smoko, and it was only the three of us living in the house. It was me, my partner Lorna, and this little cat who we got as a tiny little kitten that had been found on the side of the road. I think because we were always in the house, and I think because our cat was always in the house, she was with us like 24/7, and it was the first time that I'd ever had an animal or a human or anything like something really vulnerable just be completely dependent on like on me. I have a little dog now, so I've got something else that's completely dependent on me now. But yeah, really like tragically, like we were I was just cooking a roast dinner, and my wife came in from like just outside, and I thought she was like hysterically laughing about something, but she was like, because I just couldn't comprehend what she was doing, but she was like just in floods of tears, and our cat had died at nine months old, which was pretty much the length of the time that we had to have been inside our house during the pandemic in the UK. And so she kind of like grew up and died in lockdown, completely attached to us, and us completely attached to her. And it was also the day before we announced that we'd signed to Extra Mile Recording, to our record label and stuff. So the day that we announced we were going to release Fractured Party Music, I kind of wrote this song pretty much straight away, which is the first time I've ever done that, where I've kind of written something like a direct reaction to something straight away, but it kind of helped me give a little bit of focus. But it was, in a way, like it, kind of really hit mentally. But now I weirdly get real kind of like power over the fact that she's sung about all over the world. And there's like, we have like t-shirts, we've got a picture of her on Fractured Party Music. It says our first album, it's in the liner notes, it says like in dedication to Smoko Marriott. And there's now even people that have got tattoos of her as well. So like she definitely like massively lives on in memory. And she was such a punk rock cat as well, you know, and she taught me to like love in a way that I'd never before, in a way that was so kind of caring and looking after something that was so dependent.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. Like I've had my brother actually had a dog that like died like a couple months after they got him too, and like died from parvo or something like that, where like, you know, they're just like little things. They can walk, they can move, they can eat on their own, but they can't do much, right? And so like they're not supposed to be out in the world and experience all the crazy things that, you know, cities and stuff. Now in lockdown it wouldn't be as bad because there's not as many cars and stuff driving around, but
sure,
like I've had two dogs since they were born, and essentially one's still alive, the other one's passed away. But people that don't have pets, I mean, even if you have kids, it's a different love. Like I have a child now. Like obviously that's a stronger bond in a child than a dog necessarily, but it's a different way because it's almost like they give you everything. You give them so little in return, even as much as you can possibly love a pet, you give them essentially so little in return. All they want you to do is just like love them the entire day long. And it's like, that's so insane that this animal is so attached to you. They're not the same species, whatever. Like they just love you unconditionally. They just want to be around you. And it kills you when that's taken away, because it's like, even when you're mad at them, like when you're mad at them, you're like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You're like, God, I feel bad for you yelling at my dog when all it wants to do is like be my best friend. And I'm like, I'm such a dick sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what else to do though. Like, why won't you listen to me?
Yeah, I've literally experienced that about an hour ago, because we got a dog in December. It was the first ever time we got them, like a little 8-week-old puppy. And like I was like sleeping by his side so I could kind of take him out every 2 hours for weeds and stuff when he was younger. And he's getting a little bit more independent now, but he's getting like he really barks at his own reflection at the moment. So we've got a glass door like going out into the backyard, and he barks at his own reflection. And I was trying to teach him today, no, that's you there. That's not anything else. So I went and picked him up and like showed him at a mirror so he could see me at the mirror and then him at the mirror. And then he just barked at that mirror for ages as well. And it was like, no, I'm joking. But like, it's really hard because like, if you try and kind of discipline him or anything, or like the thing that he likes doing at the moment, if you leave the bathroom door open, it's just grabbing the loo roll and then just running off of it and just running around the house with it. But he's so cute. He's amazing. And he's so happy to see us when we're home. And like, obviously when I'm not touring, I'm at home a lot as well. So I can spend a lot of time with him, which is the reason we got him at that point, so that I could spend the next couple of months socializing him. But the main reason we got him is when I went to America for 2 months, I felt, I not only missed her so much, but I felt so guilty that I was leaving my partner, Lorna, who I've been with for over 10 years. And we never really spent more than a week apart. I was leaving her for 2 months to like come home to an empty house. Whereas now she gets to come home and there's going to be a puppy. So excited to see her, which is amazing, which makes it harder for me to leave on a personal level, because now I'm leaving like I'm leaving a puppy and my wife. But it makes me feel a lot more kind of happy that she's got someone to come home to. Yeah.
And I'll refrain from making any, references to the band name and how much pets need each other and need us and all that stuff. I've seen interviews online where people make references to that. And I'm like, God, you're so hokey. But I will say, obviously I don't even think that you'd mentioned a pet previously in your first album. I think that at least I don't recall anything like that, but so it wasn't like the name is revolving around your cat or anything like that. It was just, that's just the name. And then you finally wrote a song about a pet eventually.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. The name came before any songs about pets. And then that was one of the conversations that we had, especially because like we're writing album 3 at the moment, and I've got a ton that kind of references our little dog as well. And it's like, can we be called Pet Needs and have a song about a cat and a song about a dog? But they're a massive part of my life. But that was never we kind of named the band because we had a very kind of like punk rock attitude when we first started, where it's like, right, let's write like 5 songs and let's get a gig and let's do it all in like 2 weeks. And then we needed a name to go on the poster, and I stumbled into my little flat about like 3 in the morning to a text from the promoter saying, okay, what's your band called? And on the side of the cat food that I was going to feed my cat, it just said like, your pet needs to be fed twice a day. And I was like, your pet needs to be fed twice a day. Okay, Pet Needs, let's keep that for now. So it did kind of come from, if I didn't own a cat, it wouldn't have been Pet Needs, but it wasn't anything to do really with the pet or anything like that. And then, now we've definitely got one song about a cat, and we might have a song about a dog coming as well.
Next, it's going to be an entire concept album about animals.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be like a Noah's Ark kind of vibe.
Awesome. So we'll take a quick break. Obviously, we'll be right back with Johnny from Pet Needs. We'll put him in the spotlight with some hot seat questions. You're not going to want to miss this. Hopefully, he's not going to pass out from pressure or anything like that. But the Power by Rock podcast will return right after this.
Reverend Guitars embodies the idea that every run of scorching lead and every roll of finger-picked twang deserve the same passion and commitment to quality. Whether you're selling out arenas or playing in your living room, we know that what makes an instrument powerful is when players wield them to create something remarkable. A melody that moves mountains, a riff that just won't quit. We want to be there in your hands when that happens. For us, that means staying true to what we believe. Somewhere along the road of electric guitar history, it became a crazy idea that guitar makers should craft guitars with the same sense of purpose and passion, whether they're played in a bedroom or an arena. If that's a wild idea, then we're in the right place, carrying 6 strings and an attitude, and we're in good company. Reverend Guitars. Well played.
Welcome back to the Powered by Rock podcast. I'm here with Johnny Marriot from Pet Needs to bring him into the spotlight for a few questions and see if we can make him sweat a little bit. So, Johnny, are you ready to be put in the spotlight?
Just about, Isaac. Let's go. Let's do it.
Right. All right. So, I know you guys are obviously from Colchester, and then I think you guys are currently in Essex. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, and you've been all over the United States. You've been to many places in the UK and in Europe. We talked about that obviously in the previous segment, but I'm going to put you a little bit on the hot seat here and say, what's your favorite city outside of Essex or your hometown to play in, and why?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to say Vegas just because that's too of an obvious one, but that was one of our favorite ever shows.
Most people come here and then nobody shows up and they're like, we fucking hate coming to Vegas.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. When we come back and headline, we'll see if we get the same response. But luckily, we were the big artists. You know what? I really, really like playing in Germany. And we did a headline tour in Germany recently, and we did a show in Hamburg, and the place just went absolutely nuts. And it was sold out as well, which is amazing. It's like a 200 cap venue, but to now be able to travel like right across Germany to Hamburg to have that amount of people turn up was just absolutely like incredible. So yeah, I think I would say Hamburg, but then I've got so many places just running through my mind now as well. But if I have to say one,
it's always good to say the first thing that comes to mind, because that's usually, if it's not the best that you've ever had, at least it's the most thing that you can remember right off the top of your head. It's like, at least that was fun. Like, that's a memory, right?
Yeah, and that was amazing. And then we went, because it was in November, and right opposite the venue, they were like, oh, you need to go to the Christmas sex market opposite. And it's like, okay. And then we went afterwards, and like the promoter took us out, and there was this big like Christmas market, but it was also like a sex and fetish market at the same time. But for me, it was, I thought, like, I think they need to stick to doing one thing well, because it wasn't Christmassy or sexy enough for me, really. I think they were just kind of the mix the two too much, and they didn't have too much of a crossover. But yeah, we had an amazing night. It was an awesome place. And yeah, the show was amazing.
Yeah. Have you guys played in Amsterdam at all yet?
We haven't. We played in the Netherlands. So we played in Tilburg, which was incredible. And Tilburg, I'd say, I like the Netherlands for how you're treated by promoters and things. Like we were backstage at this place in Tilburg, and like we had our own chef that would cook us like anything we wanted, and we were just treated so well. And the people of the Netherlands are absolutely amazing. Like as a crowd, they're fantastic. So yeah, played a couple of places
well too, which is crazy. I was like, you guys speak
American
English. I'm like, this is weird.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's so cool. But no, never done Amsterdam, which is weird because I live about like a 20-minute drive from a ferry port that you could just get on the boat and it just goes straight to the Hook of Holland. So it's really easy to get to. But no, not yet. Hopefully this year.
Well, if you do, and when you do, I'm sure you will. It's again, it's not far for most people in the UK. Just don't die. Like I was there for like 3 or 4 days, and I'm like, if I had stayed a 5th day, I'd be dead.
Really? And this is from someone coming from Vegas.
Yeah, I was like, this is.
Oh, wow.
Well, I was also hanging out with British people and a few other like Scots and just a mix of other people, and I was like, we're going too hard. This is dumb. Like,
yeah.
I'm not in my 20s anymore or 30s.
Yeah, well, if there's a place to do it, that's the place, you know.
Yeah, it's fun, but yeah, you can definitely get overboard quick.
Yeah, sure. I think it is when you're there or when you're doing something like that for an extended period of time. I think that's when like the days start to blur into one a little bit. I find it at music festivals as well. Luckily, I'm usually playing most of the music festivals I go to now, so I have to keep some sort of level head at the start. With playing the Flogging Molly cruise from Miami to Mexico. Yep. It's like a 5-day cruise. All you can drink beer. We're doing that in November. And it's like, how are we going to cope with this? I've asked, they want us to do 3 sets. And I asked, could we do all 3 sets on the Thursday morning and then just do the rest of the cruise? But you're not allowed. You've got to split them up.
Like, come on, man. All right. Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. Perfect. We're good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, that cruise, the Salty Dog cruise, right? That's been going for a few years, and that thing looks incredible. I've actually never been on a cruise ship, but
neither have I.
That's one of the ones I would go on if I could, because all the bands that go are really good. So, yeah, that's awesome. Gonna be fun. Congratulations, by the way. I actually had seen their lineup, but I must have missed that you guys were on it, or I saw it and just forgot. But yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So let me know how it goes.
It's going to be nuts. Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
All right. Question number 2. I know you grew up a fan of the Sex Pistols, Clash, some of the other UK kind of punk bands and stuff like that, but what's the one active band that you'd most like to play a show with? I might know this answer already, but I'll let you answer this, and then we'll see if it lines up. I'll write it on a piece of paper so that way I can see if I was right, but go ahead.
Okay. The one active band. Because a lot of the ones I want to play with at the moment are ones that are quite small, but I am massively excited about. So like there's a band called Kid Capici at the moment who are kind of just started to blow up in the UK, and I am obsessed with their music. Absolutely love them. I think that I think the most fun, I think it'd be awesome to open for Rancid. I think that'd be really, really cool. So I think, I don't know, what have you got written on your
all right, well, based on what I could find in research, I had this one.
Oh, God. Can I change my answer? Oh, yeah. Oh, I love Pup so much. And like that's one thing we did when we were driving back from LA, back to Philly to drop the van off. We were doing things where we were listening to like the whole back catalogue of someone, and we would listen to like Pup was the only one where we didn't have to have a break. We could just listen to like song 1 from album 1 and all the way through to the new album. And they're just amazing. And like I think we take so much inspiration from he's like kind of aggressively vulnerable, and I really like that. I really like how he can like have lyrics that are so kind of like biting of the like, if this tour doesn't kill you, I will. But then have stuff that's kind of really, that kind of like really introspective stuff as well. And like, they are amazing. Yeah.
What is it about Rancid? Because we've actually had people, I've asked this before from people, and like I've had people say Rancid, and I love Rancid. Like one guy in my high school used to call me Ronnie Rancid as a nickname because I was the only kid that wore a Rancid t-shirt in high school. I'm like, that's such a stupid nickname, but okay, you can call me whatever. I don't give a shit. But what do you find about Rancid that you're like, I would love to go on tour with them?
I think for me, they are just the absolute kings of choruses. And like with the way that we write, I like kind of try and explore lots of different themes, but I always want things to have like a big chorus and something you can sing along to. And we drove all the way from Colchester to Belgium to watch Rancid play a show because they were playing an Out Come the Wolves in its entirety. And I have never been so knackered after a show because there's no breaks. It's just kind of like one massive hit, another massive hit, another massive hit, another massive hit. They just are able to like write albums without album tracks. And I'm a massive fan of an album track as well. Like I do like things that are a bit more, like I'm a big fan of like people like Nick Cave as well and things. But with Rancid, I think that they're just the kings of choruses, and we will sometimes go, oh, we need to have a little Rancid bit in this song where we have like a big hey section or something where it's just unashamedly like kind of pop hooks, really punk attitude, and like I just love them. I think they'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, they've been around for a long time. They're one of those bands that also they've been famous to like be pretty much mainstream. People who were alive in the 90s will know of them still, but they're also like they never got to the point where they were like just doing sellout albums or anything like that, where it's just like we're just gonna write, we're gonna change. Like I will say that about Green Day, they definitely changed their sound once they got famous, and that's unfortunate. But Rancid really never did. If anything, they kind of went a little bit harder for a while to kind of shirk off the popularity. They're like, fuck everybody else, we're gonna make this hardcore album. It's like, let's go back to what we were doing before. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, it's good. With Green Day, I think actually I really liked American Idiot. I knew it's like definitely a kind of like different step. But then I started like the stuff that I like less from Green Day is when they tried to go back to what they were doing, kind of like the Uno Dos Tres albums and stuff like that, like where they went, oh, we're gonna now try and like write Dookie again or something. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I think once you write American Idiot, I just don't know where you can go after that. Really, it's so hard. It's like because you can't then just go back.
Damned if you don't. But that's it. It's weird. And then they kind of, it's just like their last album. I can't even remember what it's called, but I was like, holy shit! How many clapping sections do you have in this whole album? I was like, why is there so much clapping? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it must be so hard after you've done something so seminal. I don't know where they go, but they I think I saw them on the what was the album after? 21st Century Breakdown. I saw them on that tour. That was the first time I ever saw them, and the first time I ever saw Frank Turner. Actually, Frank Turner was opening for them, and they were like one of the best live bands I'd ever seen.
Yeah, they're crazy live.
Like, yeah, incredible. They played Wembley Stadium. It's my only ever stadium show actually. And my brother got it for me for my birthday. Like I think it's like my 16th birthday or something. And it was amazing. We traveled down to London together, and then that was the first time that we ever saw like Frank Turner come, like some guy just walk out in a waistcoat and an acoustic guitar opening for Green Day, and he was great. And then we became a fan.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get to the third question. I'll actually have a question about Frank Turner here in a second, but third question is in the song Ibiza in Winter, you talk about eating breakfast for dinner. So I love to talk about food. So I want to know, what's your favorite breakfast for dinner cuisine? I think my favorite breakfast for dinner cuisine is if there's loads of like pubs around where I live where they'll do, it's just called like an all day breakfast. So it's like a full English breakfast, which is like, I mean, I'm vegetarian, I'm pescatarian, so I'll have the vegetarian version, but like the normal version is like, you're kind of like sausage, bacon, eggs, beans, toast. And so if I was going to choose to have one, that would be, definitely like a full all day breakfast. And for some reason they do like, they do hash browns in the morning, but if you have an all day breakfast, they'll have like shit like they'll have fries with it instead, which I quite like, having the fries. I appreciate
and the beans.
You translating British English into UK American English a lot.
Thank you.
I've been to England. I have a lot of English friends. I know the difference. I think the only time you didn't stop yourself was when you said loo. But yes, that's toilet for.
Oh, cool. Is that not? You say bathroom.
Don't know what a lot of stuff here is. Trust me, but I like how you say chips and then say, I mean, French fries. Yeah.
Because I moved. I was going to say toilet at the start. I thought toilet was British, and then loo. Oh no, it's not bathroom, isn't it? Bathroom's American.
Everybody says bathroom here. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But then, in that song.
You can be really British and say WC, and people would be like, what the fuck is a WC?
Yeah.
What are you from the 1930s?
That's it, yeah. But yeah, I think a full English as dinner is a real treat as well. Unfortunately, in the song, I was just talking about eating cereal for every single meal. Yeah. Which is like eating my breakfast for dinner. Which, if I was going to go for my favorite cereal, I think really boring, but maybe cornflakes, which is very, very boring. Yeah. But I'm quite basic with my cereal choices.
Well, they're healthier for you, that's for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right. Question number 4. Who wins in a fight between God and Frank Turner, and why?
Okay. It depends on the parameters. And also, he's taken me on tour all the way around the world now, so he can't really give me much more. So I don't have to try and kiss his ass to get more tours either, which is cool. So between God and Frank Turner, I think in songwriting, Frank Turner, but I haven't heard much of God's work really. I've heard songs about God, but I've not
heard all the hymns that he wrote.
Yeah, actually, his hymns are quite good. I know that Frank Turner's written a song claiming God doesn't exist, but God hasn't written a song saying Frank Turner doesn't exist. So I think that God could win actually, because Frank Turner would turn up thinking that he's going to fight someone that doesn't exist. So God could sneak up from him from behind.
He's been smoking cigarettes all day long and drinking like, oh, this will be easy.
yeah. He already thinks there's no God. So like, if he turns up and then God's there, he is very ill prepared. So I'm going to go for God for that one.
That's a great answer. So I know that you're quite a bit younger than me, but when I was in like middle school, a movie called Airheads, it had Brendan Fraser, Adam Sandler, and Steve Buscemi in it. And in that movie, there's a guy who's trying to sneak in, trying to be like, oh, I'm a record label guy, because they hold a radio station hostage to try to get signed. And they're like, oh, we're a record label, we want to come in. So they ask him a question like, Lemmy from why can't I think of the goddamn band's name right now?
Motorhead.
Yeah, Motorhead. I'm like something. I was thinking Savage something. I was like, what the fuck am I thinking? But yeah, Lemmy from Motorhead. So the record label the guy comes up and then they ask him, who wins in a fight between Lemmy and God? And he goes, Lemmy. Well, they're like, trick question. Lemmy is God. Get out of here, asshole. And they close the door.
Nice.
So I was either expecting that answer or something like maybe, like you might have said something like what you said. But yeah, that just shows the age difference, because, I think you might be 7 or 8 years younger than me. I'm not even sure your age. But yeah, if you're my age, you'd say, oh, Frank Turner is God, and just close the door in their face.
Oh, no, I just gave a really, really long-winded answer. That's great.
Yeah. All right. So question 5, last question. If you had the power to change one thing on planet Earth, about planet Earth or on planet Earth, what would you do?
Oh my God. Well, again, I'm going to take out kind of world peace and world hunger and all that kind of stuff, and think about if I could change one thing about planet Earth. I think I would make the Pacific Ocean smaller. I think because when we had to get that flight
elsewhere on planet and then shrink that up a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, make sure I don't want to take the water away from anywhere else. Maybe we could make it deeper but smaller.
Yeah.
So that we could get to America quicker, because it was a long old flight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, going both ways, like if you go to Australia, it's, oh my God, you just want to die. But going, obviously from like the UK to like New York, not so bad. But yeah, like Europe has so many cool things in that small area. It's like, oh, I'm used to an hour-long flight, not 7-8 hours. Well, go from like Las Vegas to Sydney, Australia, for example, that's like 19 hours. I'm like, this is the worst.
Yeah.
Like, you're in a plane that's flying over endless amounts of ocean for so long, and you're like, well, if I'm gonna die, I guess it's gonna be here.
Yeah, it's so hard. The only time I've ever traveled for 19 hours straight is we finished a tour in Milan in Italy, and then we had to drive, and it's when we used to use hire vans. We didn't have our own van, so we couldn't afford one more day on the van, so we had to drive the van back to Colchester in one day, and that was a 19-hour drive from Milan all the way to Colchester, like going over about 4 or 5 countries to get there.
Yeah, going through mountains and shit, and
yeah, that's it. I mean, it's very beautiful coming out the top of Italy, but it was a long old drive. That was a long one, but yeah, that 19-hour flight, I can't even imagine. I think we've done about a 10-hour.
It's interesting that you say that you'd rather shrink the oceans. Why don't you just make like teleportation a thing?
Oh, well, I've seen it. Well, maybe, but then some of my favorite times in like when we were in America, we like drove through Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah.
Mind you, I suppose we don't have to do teleportation, do we? We could have it as an option. And then so if we did want to go for a drive, we could still go for a drive. Yeah, maybe let's do teleportation then. That'd be great. And then I could even just
answer. I'm like, I just want to get to where I'm going. I don't like, sure, there's a lot of cool stuff to see, but I also don't want to sit there and wait for the thing that I want to do either. Like I'm impatient in that. Like I hate 19-hour flights. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I'd like to teleport our drum kit to the stage as well. That'd be great.
Just get a teleporter and be like, boop.
Yeah, that'd be so good. Especially the stage that we're at in the UK. We do lots of touring, but we're still we're playing like the 200 cap venues, and that's lots of venues are upstairs above pubs and stuff, and we have to lug a lot of gear up like very high stairs and very like narrow corridors to get it up there.
The thing about the UK is everything's narrow, so many narrow streets and narrow stairways and stuff like that, and even the house is like you'll have like 2 or 3 floors, but you'll have narrow houses, so it's like, okay, yeah, that's it.
But this is I'm in a room now. I could touch this wall and touch that wall there, and this is how I've got some stairs just that side there, and then I've got another room directly behind this, which is the same size, and that's it. And then I've got 2 downstairs as well, and that's the whole house.
Yeah,
and like I could kind of in this seat, I could touch both walls.
Yeah, I remember one time I was in a pub in I think it was in Richmond or something in the UK, and it's washing my hands, so I just used the bathroom or the toilet, and literally turn around, like toilet's in front of me, turn to my side, and literally I'm not a big guy. I'm shorter than you, a little wider, but not much wider. And like I turn, and then the sink's like right here, but the door is like if you open the door, it's like hitting the sink, and I'm like trying to wash my hands in a sink that's about like, I don't know, let's say this wide maybe. And I'm like, what am I doing here? This is ridiculous. It's like made for hobbits or something.
That's it, especially loads of the old pubs, in England. So everything's kind of very small, very low doorways as well. You find a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about that. That kind of makes it nice though. Like everything's 150 years old there, or 500 years old there. Everything in America is like 50 years old. It's like nothing's old. Like the oldest buildings we got are like some temples and churches, but you guys have literally like 500-year-old churches that you got shells, like from artillery shells from World War I and World War II, and you're like, holy shit, that's crazy. Yeah,
and I used to live in a house. Before I lived in this house, I used to live in the middle of nowhere because I was working at a boarding school for boys with like severe behavioural difficulties. And I was living and because they had like severe behavioural difficulties, they wanted kind of, they didn't want to have like an inner city school for them or anything. They had this big kind of converted stately home thing that they used to be. But I kind of rented a house in the village, and the house that I rented was 450 years old.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was beautiful. It was amazing. But it's like this old kind of.
Are you sure it wasn't a castle? You rented a castle, didn't you?
Yeah, property prices were a lot cheaper in the country. I was just in a massive castle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could sit here and talk to you all day, so we'll kind of stop getting off topic here, but you're out of the spotlight. You did a great job. Frank Turner might be giving you a call as soon as this is, released. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, so I do want to play a song from you guys. I just want to make sure that anybody who's listening, Spotify, YouTube, any of these accounts, whatever, I have your full permission as the artist who owns the rights to play this song, Ibiza in Winter from Pet Needs. Can I play this song right now so that way people can hear some music from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Full permission.
Fantastic. All right. So to play us into the break, here's the song Ibiza in Winter from Pet Needs, and we'll be back right after this.
I need to rest like Ibiza in winter. I've not been my best eating breakfast for dinner. I stare at this desktop for work and for pleasure, and measure my worth by what I pay for. I need you to fix me up, 'cause I'm scared I'm not enough. I'm sick of the cycle of ripping life out of myself, writing about it, we all more than material. This life ain't perfect, but we can work to make it worth it. I need to focus on diet and mindset and being well. I'm so out of practice of being well. I've been excusing these self-destructive moods as accidents, I'm not enough. I'm sick of the cycle of ripping life out of myself. The writing about it, we are more than material. This life ain't perfect, but we can work to make it worth it. I need to focus on diet and mindset and being well. And being well. Oh, I've been shouting in my sleep, and I've been writing down my dreams to try and make sense. But all I dream of are car crashes, burglaries. So I sleep with a band beside my bed, even though I know it's in my head. 'Cause I need to rest like Ibiza in winter. I've not been my best in breakfast for dinner. I'm sick of the cycle of ripping life out of myself. And writing about it, we are more than material. This life ain't perfect, but we can work to make it worth it. I need to focus on diet and mindset and being well. I'm so out of practice and being well.
Running your own music career is incredibly difficult. Trying to get people to like, share, comment, listen, follow, it's all just overwhelming. Most musicians give up before they ever achieve success, and that's the worst. If you're looking for a better way to grow your music career, head to DIYrockcareer.com for some absolutely free training. It costs you nothing, and it could be the difference between hitting your goals and quitting your dream. Go to DIYrockcareer.com today by clicking the link below this episode.
Then I lost my way.
Welcome back to the Powered by Rock podcast. All right, Johnny, welcome back. I do want to talk real quick about what you guys have coming up, because obviously we talked about some of the stuff you've done, but it's not like you guys are just going off in the sunset and saying we're done and dusted. We're good. We're gonna go out on our high note here. So I know you got some acoustic shows coming up and some other things coming up. Obviously, there's probably festival season that you're going to jump on. What does Pet Needs have coming up in 2023 that you guys would like to share with the fans?
Sure. So we're me and my brother are heading off on actually talking about tiny things or tiny places. We're heading off on an acoustic tour of like breweries and micro pubs and stuff in a couple of weeks, which is going to be really, really fun.
I think you guys got your own beer out of this situation, didn't you?
Yeah, which is amazing. It's called Punk Isn't Dead. It's just up for ale, and it's been brewed down in Southampton. And yeah, it's going to be so excited about that. And this is some of the rooms are 30 capacity going up to about 150 capacity. And some of the ones that are smaller capacity, we're putting on more than one show there, so more people can see it. But it's going to be amazing, and kind of what we were talking about earlier about you don't need 1 million people in a room to get that atmosphere. As soon as you've got 30 people in a room that are so up for a party, it's going to be amazing. Then we're out on tour around the UK with a band called the Lottery Winners, who are really cool, really super fun band. Then out touring America with the Bouncing Souls and Swinging Utters and Samiam, which is going to be really cool. Unfortunately, not coming near Vegas. We're starting up in Chicago, and then
East Coast stuff, right?
It is, down Florida and then across to Texas for a little bit. Then lots of UK festivals, maybe some European festivals. Not too sure yet. Depends if we've got time to get out there or not. And then a load of headline stuff in European and UK in the fall. And then hopefully either a run of headline stuff, or if not, kind of some shared build stuff in America, running into the Flogging Molly Salty Dog Cruise. And then some more headline stuff in the UK, finishing at the Fractured Party 3, which is the biggest venue we've ever headlined. It's the best part of 1,000 people. And tickets are going well, but I'm so excited. Again, it's one of those things where you can't really imagine walking out in front of that many people at your own headline show. But it looks like it's going to happen, which is cool. So yeah, that looks like it's 2023 if all goes to plan.
Yeah. And so I don't know if anybody's noticed right now, but obviously below this, it says Johnny Marriott from Rising UK Rock Band. If you haven't heard of these guys yet, you're pretty much going to have to hear about them soon because they'll be in pretty much every neighborhood in the entire Western civilization world, minus maybe Australia over there, very soon. So definitely go check them out on a show if you can, because I got to be honest with you, they're one of the most fun bands you'll see live. So I highly recommend checking them out. But just listening to you list off all that stuff, I'm like, holy shit, I'm tired thinking about how exhausted you guys are going to be after this.
Yeah, it's strange. It's like you're like the way that kind of like music seems to work, or what we're learning is the way to like get out there, like Spotify streams and stuff are all very, very good, but just getting out and playing live is a way to get out and meet people and just kind of keep growing and building things.
Yeah.
And it's the best way to pay the bills as well. Like live shows seem to be like the only thing that kind of half pay the bills now, because people don't buy records in the same amount of numbers they did before and stuff.
Yeah. And streaming sure as hell doesn't pay the rent, right?
Like, nope, not at all.
Millions of streams.
All.
Yeah.
That's it. And also it's the most fun part of the job. That's why we do it, you know, like, and that's why like we don't have to go out and play like kind of 30 capacity rooms if we don't want to, but then we're just choosing to do it and doing it lots because we really, really enjoy it. Then going out and supporting other bands is always so much fun, and like life's an adventure, right? And it's like take these opportunities and like make hay when the sun shines, because you never know, it might all end tomorrow. That's the thing. So like, let's grab it with both hands now.
Yeah, very cool. Obviously, we'll add some links to you guys' music and everything, you guys' social media in the notes below this episode. But do you have anything else that you want to shout out, plug, anything you guys want to say before we go today, so that way people can know about it? Or obviously, you know, any people that you want to thank or anything like that? Yeah,
so I'd say that our single Ibiza in Winter, we just shot a music video for that, which is like my favorite music video that we ever did. We flew out to Ibiza to actually kind of like act out stuff in the music video, which is really, really cool. As to who I'd like to thank, I think today, because it's the person that I've been spending the most time around, I'd just like to thank my new little puppy, Eddie, for bringing so much joy.
Very cool. So it was Smoko, right? Well, that was the last one. And this
yeah.
So Smoko the cat, Eddie the dog. What kind of dog is it?
Yeah. He's a Cavachon, so he's half Bichon Free, half King Charles Cavalier. So he's only a little. He's only going to get. I can't show on the screen, but he's not going to get very, very big. He's getting a bit too heavy to like pick up now, gotcha. But he's still going to be a little thing. Very cool, very cool.
All right, last question before we go is, what one song, one new album, one new artist, one piece of music essentially, what would you recommend somebody listen to? And this may be like the last year or so.
Yeah, sure. I am gonna throw back to the artist that I said I really liked to tour with earlier, Kid Capici, who've got an album out called Look at What You Could Have Won, I think it's called. And they're amazing. They are so British, but like really kind of like super political, and their beats are kind of like dancey, kind of really driving. But I am just obsessed with their album at the moment. I go through being kind of really obsessed with different artists or different albums. Sometimes it's something from like back in the 70s, and sometimes it's something modern. But they just seem to be taking over at the moment. It's amazing. Like they are kind of really building in the UK, but they've just gone out to Europe. They seem to be smashing it there. And yeah, I'd massively recommend anyone listening to this go listen to the new Kid Capici album, because it's incredible.
Fantastic. I'll have to check it out. I haven't heard of them yet, so that's why I love to ask the question, because I always like getting these recommendations of bands I'll never hear of normally.
Cool. Oh, nice. Well, definitely 100%. Yeah, get them. Cool. Get them streaming.
That's all I have for you today, Johnny. We've been here for a while, and it's been great. I could talk to you literally for hours, but I want to respect your time, and I really appreciate you for being on the show. Johnny Marriott from the band Pet Needs. Obviously, guys, make sure to go to the show notes below this episode. Check out the music. Go follow them on social media. I'm just going to call you guys the Lords of Colchester / Essex, and then you guys will be that forever now. So.
Nice. Thank you so much. I love the title.
Yeah. All right, guys, make sure, obviously, you have to remember that the Powered by Rock podcast is powered by our listeners. So please make sure to show us some support. Go subscribe to the podcast and share the podcast on social media. If you're only listening to this podcast, you can check out the full video interview on our YouTube and Spotify channels as well. Also, if you're into reading, like sometimes I am, I obviously write, so I have to read. But if you want to check out some of our awesome content or shop our merch and gear, head to poweredbyrock.com to see what's good there. Obviously, I didn't even mention this, but Pet Needs is actually up for like 2 or 3 of our Powered by Rock Music Awards. So if you want to go vote for them, make sure you vote before the voting ends. Hopefully this episode will come out before the voting ends. I'm not even sure. But either way, we'll either know if you've voted for them or if they've won by then. So we'll see how that goes. But that's our show for today, guys. Until we see you for the next episode, guys, rock on.
Supposed to be